Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the magical forest of Korean jailbait underboob. This is going to be my guide for how to play Seong in Soul Calibur 6. I had previously said that I wasn't going to make any character guides for this game, but I feel now that I've learned enough about the character that I can make you a decent guide, provided that you promise to take everything I teach you in this one with a healthy grain of salt, because I'm not speaking with as much confidence as I would be were I talking about Tekken. It also needs to be said that we're not working with complete frame data in this game yet, and so things like block punishment are a little bit difficult to speak about, but apart from that I can definitely teach you what I think you should be doing with the character, what her good moves are, how to play her, how to combo, and so on. So with that disclaimer out of the way, let's start jumping into the material by talking about what kind of a character she is and what her strategy should be, in my opinion. So the first thing you'll notice about Mina, well, maybe not the first thing, depending on how much of a pervert you are, but she's gripping a very long shaft, let's say. And that means that you will think of her instantly as a long-range character or a zoning character, which is kind of like a half-truth, I guess. If you're way out here, you can't party, you know, the way Ivy does. You actually have a very specific range where you want to be at with this character. So she is spacing based, but you also have to be very deliberate with your spacing, and so she's going to be good in your hands if you're good at thinking about that kind of thing. The reason is that she has, you know, we have these cute little mini games in Soul Calibur. Sazalamel puts his purple balls on people. Tira switches in between two different moods, and with Mina you get special properties when you hit people with just the tip, the bladed part of your staff. And so if you look at that move, it's 22 damage and nothing special when you hit up close, but if I'm out here it gives me 34 damage and a very powerful knockdown. And so that means that she has an optimal range she wants to operate at, and she wants to keep her opponent sort of at the tip of that bladed staff if she can. But you shouldn't overestimate her range. It's not as massive as you might think. And if you look at this attack, for example, which is her 6A or 4A, you can see how massive the arc looks. Like it covers the entire screen. It looks absolutely insanely large. But if we just zoom out a little bit and look at the attack animation from a different angle, so we're not looking at it underneath anymore, you see how much smaller this looks? So yeah, it's very easy to overestimate the range of some of these moves, and when you do, you can still get whiff punished by a lot of characters. So be careful about that. Don't think of yourself as the player who always wants to be as far away as possible, but try to keep them at your optimal range. And keep in mind that even though you are a long-range character, you're actually not all that slow in the close-up game. She's not terrible up here at all. Now, she's not as fast as the characters who specialize in fast close-up game like Talim or Xianghua, but she can definitely keep up, and she has some pretty decent tools up here, so kind of a hybrid character in that sense, I guess. There are two more things that you need to know about Mina that I think are like the mainstays, the three pillars along with her range that make up her general playstyle. And the first one is the fact that I think she excels at crushing and breaking guard. Right now the metagame in Soul Calibur is extremely aggressive, mainly because people don't know how to defend properly in this game. People are definitely neglecting the jump attack option a lot of the time, which is very important defensively, and they are also not GIing as often or as much as they should, or when they should, right? So that's because we're new to the game, so we don't know how to defend in this game properly yet, and so offense rules for the time being, but people are going to get better and better at this. And when that happens, I think one of Mina's niches is going to be that she's very good at breaking down guard, because she's going to have enough breathing room to come out with some of these more slow attacks. This backpack A plus B here does 41% guard crush in a single hit, which is insanely massive, but you have good break attacks overall with A plus B, down A plus B. You also have your own attack throw, which you can charge a B after for 33% guard crush and so on. You also have a couple of moves like this move right here, which is very good for you, that gives you a lethal hit when the opponent is at low guard stamina. We're going to talk about all that later, but I think she's actually very, very good at crushing and breaking guard, and I think that's going to be a mainstay of hers for more advanced Mina players down the line. The third thing I want to mention is that you are working with possibly the most powerful full crouch mix-up in the game. This is absolutely fantastic. The low is legit, by the way, completely unseeable, meaning that this mix-up is going to carry you from now all the way up into serious high-level competition. If you want to take her that far, they can't react to this, so it's completely legit. The mids are definitely there, and you have very natural, smooth ways of entering crouch with the character from some of her best moves, meaning that this full crouch mix-up is going to be a mainstay for the character no matter what level you play her at, and it's really, really good. So those are the three main things I think you need to keep in mind with Mina. You have optimal ranges you want to play at, you have very good guard, crush and break capabilities, and you should try to get into full crouch when you can, applying your amazing mix-up. So let's jump into the actual move list, and this is where I would usually talk about block punishment. Problem being, like I say, we don't have complete frame data, so it's a little bit difficult, but I can definitely give you my recommended punishers, and then for exactly when you want to place them, we're gonna have to wait, and then pretty soon there are gonna be write-ups for that all over the internet, I guess. But I'm going to start with the standing K, which is probably your fastest interruption tool. As far as I know, it's exactly 12 frames based on my preliminary testing. It's a good interruption tool and a fast punisher at 14 frames. This is very important when you're playing, for example, the big sword characters like Siegfried and Nightmare, who want to do a giant 3-hit string from half screen into another giant 3-hit string from half screen that there's these heavy hits with lows and break built in, and when you find one of those small pockets of air where you can get out of jail against those characters, it's very important to have fast interruption tools, and this is one of your main key moves for that, along with the down A. But this is very good, 14 damage, very fast, small, kind of like how you would use a standing 4 in Tekken, except you don't have the magical counter properties and things like that. The next move, if we're moving up to 14 frames, and I think this is exactly 14 frames, this is probably your sort of first main punisher that you're going to be using a lot, the Old Faithful. This is 3 KK, or down forward KK, natural mid-high string for 24 damage. Always works really well, so if you're in a punishing situation, you don't know exactly what you want to use, exactly how minus your opponent is, then this is a fast, very reliable option that you can go to, and it's not going to let you down. It's also used in some combos, as we're going to see later. And next, we need to talk about one of Mina's probably top 3 most important moves, which is the just frame version of down forward BK, this move right here. This is not only one of your most powerful combo tools, but also very important for interruptions and for punishment. And so you need to teach yourself, in my opinion, how to do this properly if you want to play this character. And I made a video entirely on how to practice that just a couple of days ago. It's up on the channel, so check that out. I'm not going to go into too much depth on how to learn how to do the move in this video, but I will teach you how to use it in combos. But this is, as far as I know, the exact same speed, 14 as this, but if you compare that 24 to the 28 and a knockdown you get for this, you can tell that this is the better option. And it's also very good near the wall or near the edge of the ring, because you're going to get, if we walk Mina over to the wall here, you can see you're going to get fast, easy wall splats with this, but you can also get very easy ring outs, especially if you launch the opponent first like that, and you can give them that just frame for the knockout, and I've done that in the gameplay video I uploaded yesterday, so you can check that out if you want to too. But a very important move for a lot of reasons, and so teach yourself how to do it. It's not difficult enough, it's not that difficult, and it's easy enough that I can learn how to do it reliably, which means anybody should be able to do it, because I don't have, perfect input skills in this game. I tend not to play advanced characters. It's not kind of my thing, Okay. Next, let's talk about B forward, or B tilde forward, or B6. And this is another fast move. We're moving up to slightly slower again here, but this is natural 34 or 32, sorry, damage knockdown move. Very good, has better range than you would suppose. Will hit from about that range right there quite comfortably, and it's another great option that I love. So those are my recommended options for just a block punishment. If you're in a crouching scenario while standing force or while standing K, very reliable, very fast. And if you want something else here for the mid, you have the crouching down forward AK, and then you also have while standing launchers like while standing B. If you're going to launch punish from a standing position, then 3B or down forward B is your sort of main standing launcher here. And I'm going to show you the combo for that a little bit later. Okay, so we've talked about punishment, we talked about overall strategy. I think we're going to get into just your normal sort of bread and butter strings and gameplay right now, and we should start talking about AA and its extensions. So AA, first of all, kind of like your jabs in this game. 28 damage, natural combo, very decent range and very decent speed. It has a good mix sort of range and speed right here, and it's very nice. And then you have two different extensions that create a little bit of an artificial mix-up. So it's an above average option for an AA string, but the two options that you have here are AAA, where the last hit is a big sweeping horizontal low, and then you have AAB, which is a long-range stab. Now, the reason this isn't a real mix-up is that, especially against good opponents down the line, this is very GI-able. This is the kind of way, this is the kind of string you want to GI. And in this game, unlike Tekken, I mean, if you use a GI parry like this, you're comfortably going to do that and parry lows as well. Works fine against those. There are no low parries in this game like there are in Tekken, but there are low GIs, and that means that your opponent can get out of jail here with a GI easily. But if they don't, you know, if they don't predict it, if they don't see it properly, if they don't GI properly, then you do get a bootleg mix-up that is actually very decent. The two extensions kind of complement each other in a harmonious way here, because the horizontal low sweep is gonna kill people who move to the side, and people who stand block, whereas the vertical stab here, the B, is going to hit people who are crouching, trying to look for the low. So they complement and cover each other's bases, but they can both be GI'd. But just the AA by itself is a very important tool when you're running in on people and they're moving sideways and you need to lock them down. Just A or AA by itself, very important. But also when you're up here, if people are trying to sidestep you and create whiffs and whiff punishment, you need to lock them down, and your fastest sort of horizontal sweeping attack that you have is going to be the A. So it's a mainstay and a very important little string for you. Next, you have the sort of twin string of the AAA, which is the BBB. The BBB, again, I think is above average. The first two hits, again, are natural and have superior range. About from right there is going to hit. And they are natural. You get 26, which is decent. And then, again, you have a bootleg mix-up for the extensions. BBB, which is a long-range mid that knocks down, and then BBA for another horizontal leg sweep. So in the exact same way as with the A string, it's kind of a bootleg built-in mix-up that you have. It's going to work a lot of the time, but shouldn't work too often because of the GI ability of the string. But it's good enough. And then the other main thing about the string that is really fantastic, and the main way I recommend you use it, is that it's actually very good on counter hit, because the whole string becomes natural and it does a lot of damage. If you look at this right here, that's 58 for a counter hit with this string. So it is one of your main counter tools. It's fast enough that it's going to work for counter hit baiting, so it's very, very powerful, and the main way I recommend you use it. Now, if you look at my gameplay footage, you'll see me collect 1B or down back B after this for a total of 77 damage, which is obviously huge. but this is not guaranteed. Again, people don't really know how to defend properly in this game yet, so if we go to the record version here and we try and make me get counter hit by this, I'm going to show you that you can ukemi this. So let's try this. I think that should work. Now we just need to make sure that we get countered here. And you can see that I can comfortably ukemi that to the side, meaning that there are no guaranteed follow-ups as far as I know on the counter hit. But it is still very, very good at 58 damage, so very good for a counter hit tool. Then the other two main moves I want to give you up here are two interesting options that you have for command GI or GI attacks, because you have your forward K and you have your back. Let's turn off counter hit, by the way, so that we see actual attack numbers, and the back KB or 4KB. Let's start with the 4K or the 6K. This is going to be used for vertical attacks. So if we again go to record and we make Mina do that string, that should do. You can see that that's good for beating vertical attacks. It's very good for that, but it's not going to work against horizontal attacks. For horizontal attacks, you want to use the back KB, which is this one, right? So they complement one another quite well. They're not as good as just a normal GI in terms of defensive properties, because they don't work, as far as I've been able to tell, against kicks, and they don't work against lows, whereas a normal standard GI will beat all of those things. The difference being, with a normal GI, all you get is the post-GI situation, where you don't get anything guaranteed, and you might just get re-GI'd and so on. It's just, you know, for getting people off of you. That's why you use normal GI. But with these, you get a built-in hit, right? With this you even get a natural little string for 32 damage, so it's because of the built-in damage you use these attacks, and I think they're very decent, complementing, you know, your normal standard GI that you would be using for when you're being rushed down. But very decent attacks. The back KB especially can be delayed and still is completely natural on full delay like that for 32. So I think it's just a very good little damage string, honestly. But they're cool moves that I recommend you use. Forward B is going to give you a knockdown and everything. So very decent, something to keep in mind when you're playing on defense. Okay. So we talked about a lot of your close-up tools. Let's talk a little bit about your very strong spacing game with this character, and much how like you have the AA and BB strings as your sort of twin strings in the close-up. Out here you have two twin moves that complement each other really well, because you have 6A, which is the big horizontal sweep that we looked at briefly earlier, and we have 6B, which is the long-range stab. And you'll see with a lot of Mina's attacks that they kind of come in the shape of an old-timey anchor. If you, for example, Guilty Gear, the anchor that Mei swings around, because you're either going to be a very large wide arc or an extremely long-range stab most of the time. And it's not like Max, you know, he'll put his nunchuck under his left elbow, his left armpit, and then he'll swing it over his right shoulder, creating these diagonal arcs, right? And you don't really have that with Mina. Normally you go very wide or very far in a straight line, and so, like I say, very deliberate spacing, very deliberate attacking with her. But yeah, you have these moves. This is a high, but it's very good for catching people who are moving sideways, and when it does, if we're gonna record that here, just recording my opponent moving to the side, if you catch them doing that, you can get a lethal hit for guaranteed follow-ups and very good damage. That's great. And the other option here, the forward B or 6B, the stab attack, conversely, is going to catch people who are moving backwards, so you can get a good combo here. You're just going to be quite fast with it. Let's try and show you that the combo works here. There we go. So yeah, it's obvious how you're supposed to use the moves. There, you know, you hunt your opponent from your favorite range on horizontal plane with this one and on the vertical plane with that one, and they're both decent for whiff punishment as well. Become very powerful in soul charge, but I'm going to do a separate section on soul charge a little bit later. But sort of your mainstays from this range. The other big move we need to talk about here is 1B or down back B. Very important sort of iconic move for this character. Is going to be a Seong classic. It's not as powerful as it's being made out to be right now because, like I say, people aren't defending properly in this game just yet. But it is very good, and it's going to remain very good. As we saw in the beginning, this has very powerful properties when you hit with the tip of the staff, so that's what you're going to try to do. It's not terrible when you're close up because it has high crush and it's quite fast, so you can go under stuff and hit with it up close, but that's not really what you're trying to do. Mainly, you're moving around out here and your opponent is moving around over there, and when you have a sense that they're going to stop moving to do some sort of attack or whatever, that's exactly when you want to predict that and place one of these stabs. It's 34 damage and a knockdown, which is huge, and it's also a massive ring out tool. If your opponent is by the edge of the screen and you hit with this attack, it's going to knock them off the ring every time. It's so good for ring out, so they're going to be crapping their pants and moving sideways a lot when you're in that situation. But it's a very, very good move. They can block it and punish. They can easily sidestep and punish. And in Seong mirrors, me and my opponent, you know, this I've played a couple of good Seong players, you know, online, and quite quickly, because she has this really good sidestep launcher, and we're both familiar with this move, it kind of fell out of both of our repertoires quite quickly because we were getting punished a lot of the time when using it. So like I say, it's going to get worse and worse, but it's really, really powerful, and it's going to remain good enough that you definitely want to use it. It becomes monstrous in soul charge. It becomes an absolute killer in soul charge. We're going to see that later. And the last thing we need to talk about is the fact that you can actually guard cancel this move. So when people start becoming better at defending against this move and start preparing to block it, then you can cancel that, and then you're collecting your full crouch mix-up instead, which is also fantastic. So overall, this move just has very, very good properties. What a fantastic low for this character. Probably the longest range move you have, so it's amazing. Okay, next let's talk about okay, if you're running diagonally backwards, so down back or up back, or in Soul Calibur notations, 7-7 or 1-1 A, you have this 8-way run low, which is very long range, and you can use this to harass and annoy people from a range. It's going to knock down for 25 damage, which is very good. You can use to harass people on the ground as well, so just a very good move overall. I really like it, so it's another tool to mention in your spacing game. What a fantastic tool. Okay. Let's look at my notes here a little bit. I'm gonna save that for another section. Okay, I think the next thing I want to talk about is the full crouch mix-up. We need to do a section on that because it's so important. Now, let's talk about the low itself first. It's full crouch down back or 3KK. 31 damage and a knockdown, so very powerful, very scary. Not as scary as you might think. I mean, it's not a damage string, but it is powerful enough that your opponent will be scared enough to try and duck it, and when they do, that's when you mix up. So the mids that you're going to mix this with is you actually have a couple of really good options. I just like while standing 4 a lot of the time because of its speed. 20 damage and a knockdown, kind of like a while standing 4, while standing K I should say, but it's so similar to a Tekken move like a Lily while standing 4, so it's easy to mix them together. So that's very good. The other great options you have are full crouch down for AK, which is this mid-high natural string for 24, very fast, very good. And then if you want to have some balls, you can go for a launcher with the wild standing B. But this wild standing B, for what it is actually remarkably safe as far as I've been able to tell, so it's actually not a bad option at all. And you want to do the adjust frame combo after that, by the way. But it's very, very good. So all of the mids are solid, the low is very solid, and then the way you access the mix-up is the first and most important move I want to mention, and this might be Seongmina's best move in my opinion. I think this move is absolutely fantastic. If I had to make a list of like her best moves, I think I would place this at number 1 because it's just such a useful tool, and it's her forward or 6-6A. This move is absolutely fantastic. So the first thing you'll see is that it covers a lot of ground. It's a way for you to get in, but you also get in crushing highs. This will go under highs from a range, and it's a horizontal swing. So you're going to beat people who are moving sideways, which they are most of the time in this game anyway. You're going to go under highs, so you can go under stuff like this 6A right here. So you're just sliding in under there like a big offensive kind of crouch dash affair. It's very, very good. And then it goes straight into full crouch, giving you instant access to your full crouch mix-up. So this is just such a remarkable move. I think it's going to end up being like one of your favorite tools with this character. I absolutely love it already, and it's the main way I access this low sweep and its mix-up. So what a great move. Definitely mix this in for all kinds of reasons, but it's just an amazing, amazing move. And then the other main ways, if you're up here and you want to access full crouch, I think down A is your best option. Extremely fast interruption tool, puts them at a little bit of a range with pushback, but you're still in range for the low sweep to work, so the mix-up is there. It's very good for this. And the other two sort of gimmicky options you have for accessing the mix-up are you can guard cancel this thing, as we said before, and I think this is going to turn out to be pretty solid eventually. But then the other one you have is down A plus B guard cancel. Now, the lightning comes out even when you guard cancel, meaning that the opponent is more likely, if they are going to attempt the guard, to react the way you want them to with this move. But I don't think this is going to be all that useful, and the reason I say that is that because this has break properties, blocking it is not an ideal solution for the opponent anyway. I think what they're going to want to do most of the time is jump this with a launcher, and if they do, if they react and do that, then it doesn't really matter that you're, you know, doing this sweep here and cancelling it. Maybe if you can guard fast enough that you can block their jumping attack. But my point here is that to set up the mix-up here, it's not such a useful tool, because for that to work, they need to want to block the low, and they're not going to want to block this low. I think they're going to want to jump it. So this maybe not, but this I think will definitely work. But those are the main 4 options that you have, apart from just crouch blocking, obviously, to access the full crouch mix-up. But it's a very important mainstay for your character, so I definitely suggest you keep this in mind. And like I say, forward A, what an amazing move. Just such a great tool for like almost anything. I don't know how safe it is on block yet. I have to check that out, but unless it's very punishable, I'm going to go ahead and say that it might be your best move, or at least in the top 3. Okay. Next, should we talk about, well, I mentioned that her break attacks are really good, so maybe we should actually talk about them. But first, let's do your stance. You have one stance with Mina, and I don't think it's very good. It's very straightforward, so we're going to be able to go through it quickly. But I don't use it, and if you know of uses of this stance, like maybe it's very good at the wall or something, then definitely inform me, but I don't see it being very useful right now. It's this back step, so when she jumps back like this, that's the actual stance. Now if you had access to that jump just normally as kind of like a defensive jump back thing, and then you could whiff punish, that would be really cool. That's not how it works. You need an attack to hit or get blocked, and then she transitions, and if I do the attacks out here and I don't hit or get blocked, then she won't do the stance. You need it to connect with the opponent's hitbox on hit, or like that. Let's get second action, all guard back. There we go. So you can see that she does it on block as well. The 3 transitions that you have are just back B, which is the normal one. It's a fast move. You can use it for punishment if you want to collect a stance mix-up after you're punished, but it's never going to be ideal for damage. Then you have down BB. So you have back 2 or back B, down BB, and then you have just B back B, which is your normal B into the back version that transitions into the stance. And then you have 3 moves. You have the basically you have an A, a B, and a K. So it's very straightforward. But with the if we start with the K, It's just a very long range mid with break properties, so it's what you're going to use if you think your opponent is going to stand guard or move backwards. And even if they move backwards, it will catch them because the range on this is pretty crazy. You see, the range is massive, so it's very good, but it's also very linear. And so for the linear catch, you have the A, and that's basically a version of your normal standing 6A. But it's telegraphed, it's high, I don't think it's very good. And then the B is your 1B or your down back B. Problem with this is, like with this move, you want to hit a tip range, but when you use it out of the stance, you're too close and you hit with the shaft all the time, so you don't get the good properties anyway. It's a decent enough move because it catches people who move backwards. It's got high crush, it's relatively fast, so it works, but overall I just think the stance is kind of unremarkable, and I would most of the time rather use one of my other more powerful moves than to try to mix my opponent up out of this stance. I think it's a little bit too easy to deal with, but you know, I might be wrong about that. But for now, this is this makes me pretty flaccid, this stance overall. Okay, let's talk a little bit about break attacks and crush attacks, because I mentioned that that's very good for her. So first of all, back A plus B is a very big slow attack that gives you massive crush, and that's slow, so you're liable to get interrupted or counter hit. So I'm guessing that this is going to be mainly used in good Oki when you think your opponent isn't going to roll to the side. If they're going to stand up crouching or stand guarding, really you want them to guard this, right? Because you want that really powerful break like that, so you can get free stuff. I think this move is going to be good. And then your other break attacks, well, you have the A plus B. This is what you're going to use to kill reversal edge. It's your main move for that. It's a little bit on the slow side, but it's fast enough that it's very useful. The range is massive, and the combo that you get is also massive, so it's a very, very good move. You have to combo different ways depending on what range you are at, depending on whether or not you get the counter hit, but it's I'm going to explain the combos later, but it is a very good move overall. It, you know, suffers from linearity, obviously. You can tell by the animation that it does, but when people are using a lot of reversal edge, murder them with this and collect like 100+ damage. You know, it's a lot of fun. I love, by the way, that you get the purple sort of shattered glass on the floor when you break a reversal edge with a lightning attack like this, because it's blue lightning mixing with red lightning, and what do you get? You get a purple break. So, you know, little details like that I love. There's a lot of polish in this game, which impresses me. It's really immersive for a fighting game. Okay, down A plus B, or I guess 0. Oh, I'm calling it 0. I mean 2, obviously. A plus B is a very, very good move. What a fantastic move. This is mainly used for Oki, in my opinion, because, like I say, I think people are going to start jumping it very soon. But if they are on the floor, if they roll to the side, this is going to murder people who roll to the side and do a lot of damage. If they stand up guarding, it's going to knock them down for 30 and reset them to the exact situation they were already in. And if they get up crouch guarding, you have break property, so it kind of beats that as well. So it's such a good option for when people are on the ground, because it's difficult for them when they're in an Oki situation to be jumping in the air, right? So I think it's mainly going to be a very good Oki tool going forward, but it's also a very good break attack, and it does have lethal hit properties at high guard stamina. And I've tested this morning, and as far as I can tell, you want the opponent to be at 80% or more for this to work. So let's see if we can show that. Do a couple of these. 62, maybe one of those. Okay, that's 77, just a little bit more. There we go. And there you can see the lethal hit property when we go over 80. So it's really, really cool. Let's go under 80 and see if I'm right about the actual number. That might be important. Okay, so 78. And you can see that there's no lethal hits. So that's going to be very oppressive when you have you know, your opponent's life bars flashing and you're about to break their guard. Very good for that. And then you have slightly more fringe stuff like this, which I think might actually be very good. You have a version of that that comes out of your back AB, by the way, this string. because you can do back A plus B, A, B, and get that there, which I think is going to be a big scrub killer a lot of the time. But let's not get hung up on it right now. But you do have a break attack if you charge the backpack BK. Let's say that for now. And it does seem decent. It does seem to have crush properties and good range. So very cool move. And that gains unblockable properties in Soul Charge, which is even better. So yeah, very cool stuff. And then we mentioned that you have this command throw. So the actual throw, the input is back forward throw, and she just pulls them towards you, and then you can press B to do a fast knockdown hit for 30. So it's much smaller than the 55 you get off of a normal back throw. But if you use this 30 here, this one hit to discourage your opponent from walking sideways, then they're just going to stand there. And when they just stand there, that's when you charge the two and you get 33% guard crush. So it's very good for building guard crush as well. So overall, yeah, I think her guard crush game is pretty insane. And when the meta slows down and people start defending more and breathing more between strings, I think she's going to get a lot of usage out of that. Okay, let's do a section on meter bar and soul charge and stuff before we show you the combos. So with your meter with Mina, I'm going to recommend that you most of the time keep soul charge in mind. The super is going to give you 80, and it's in my opinion very good if you use it as a whiff punisher. So if you're moving around and you see a really big whiff from your opponent, then the 80 you get off of this is good enough that you definitely haven't wasted your meter. But as soon as you start using it in combos, like after one hit like that, excuse me, this is still going to be bigger than the normal combo damage you get if you do your normal combo. So if you need to kill the opponent, it's not a bad idea. But you can see that it already does less damage than if you just were to whiff punish with the super. So most of the time, I think if you can kill with your super combo, then maybe use it in combos. But otherwise, I think it's mainly a whiff punisher. And then I would recommend that you actually prefer to save your meter for when it's time to soul charge. Soul charge is very good with this character. First of all, I mean, soul charge is very good when you're being pressured, because you can get out of jail for free because it creates that pushback. But then your moves, some of your moves become just insane in soul charge. So let's show you some of the best ones. First of all, your full crouch mix-up, which you are doing anyway, becomes massive. You get 60 damage with that extra hit at the end, which is huge. So that's something that you're already using as a strategy, and it becomes so crazy powerful at 60 damage that your opponent needs to be shitting themselves. And then your 1B or down back B, not only does it gain the tip properties that it normally only has when you hit with the tip of the blade at any range, so I can be this close and still get the knockdown. It also gets bumped up to 44 damage. So this is such an impressive low, and you can say the break properties and everything. I mean, it's such an impressive move in soul charge. And so the fact that your full crouch mix-up becomes empowered in soul charge, and this really crazy low becomes empowered in soul charge, means that when you're charged up, your opponent is moving around panicking into crouch a lot of the time, really looking for those lows. And so what you do for that, that's exactly what you want, because what you do for that is, I mentioned this move 4-4-A earlier. If you do 4-4 or 6-6-A 3 times, or 6-6-A-A-A I should say, this move turns into a 3-hit natural string for massive damage that starts with a mid, which is just so insanely good because your opponent is crouching the whole time. And this is already a good gap closer that you're already using for getting it on your opponent. So when they're moving around crouching and panicking, boom, 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 and it's 58 damage, knockdown, it rings people out, it just murders people. It's this complete blender. It's so good. So yeah, your mix-up in soul charge is massive because your lows are massive, and then you have this extreme mid to just murder anybody who's crouching. And because it's long range, you can come in from afar and destroy people with it. So it's really, really good. Another really good thing that happens in soul charge is that this main sweep of yours is suddenly a break attack, the 6A, and so that's another thing that is going to make opponents, they're moving around, they're trying to run out the clock, right, because they want you to run out of soul charge, because this is a high that they want to duck, this is a low that they want to duck or sidestep, and because this is a low they want to duck, that just makes that mid string monstrous. So it's a very complete package for soul charge, and it is so good that I think a lot of the time you should prefer charging to actually using the super, and I think the super is mainly going to be a whiff punisher for you, but it's very good. I mean, Mina is crazy good in soul charge. Super cool. Okay, we talked about her stance, we talked about full crouch. I think I just want to go into lethal hits and combos. I have forgotten to talk about this move, so I'll just stick it here. This is down back A or 1A. If you charge it, it turns into a massive attack throw for 47. If you don't, you smack them in the cooch for 32 and knock them down. It's a pretty good mix-up low. It's on the slow side, but it's a good mix-up with just your 3B for wake-ups, because right now, especially against Mina who has good lows, people get up crouching all the time, and then you can be there with these combos, but it's a good mix-up tool for that situation. And when your back is to the edge of the screen, this is gonna just throw them over the edge and ring them out consistently, so it's really cheap for that as well. Okay, let's give you some combos. And I think we should start with, really, this is your best launcher in my opinion. One of your most important moves. We haven't talked about it yet because I wanted to talk about it in the combos section. But this is 2-2 or 8-8B, and it is just such a fantastic launcher. First of all, it's out of the sidestep, so this is what you use for whiff punishing out of a sidestep, of course. But it also has massive range and is super fast. If you think about the similar move that, for example, Astroth has, I don't think it's nearly this fast. This is very quick. It's quick enough that you can be up here against like Seonghwa, who's spamming you down and being super aggressive, and then you see one opportunity to get out to the side, and you can interrupt her with this and get the launch. It's so good, and from way out here as well. So great launcher, and your main sort of whiff punishing and sidestep whiff punish tool. And the combo is super easy to do, very reliable at different angles and stuff. So great launcher. The combo looks like this, and so what I'm doing here is I'm launching with up or down B, and then you're gonna do forward or AA-B, which is the stab, but you need to hold the input. If you don't, that happens, but if you do, my opponent, Seongmina's ass flies into the air and she's in this sort of bound state, and then you're just gonna, I mean, her ass is way up in the air and you're just gonna shove this giant bladed pole straight into it, so it's kind of like a gruesome combo, but you need to hold the input to create that bound state, and then you're gonna do 1 or down back B, and that's the combo. And because this combo naturally creates the perfect spacing for this attack to hit at tip range, you're always going to get ideal damage here, and it always works. So it's very reliable, and it gives you 63, so it's big. It's such a good combo. So that's one of your main combos that you're going to use for that. I also use this for the back A lethal hit, by the way. Let's talk about that. Back A is a very good lethal hit move launcher for you, and the way you lethal hit with it, the lethal hit condition is that you hit with the tip of the blade again, so right there, and then you can do the exact same combo for really good damage. So very good. You can do other combos, but that's what I use in that situation. It seems to be very good damage. So this is one of your main lethal hit moves, and just a great low. A little bit on the slow side, but again, if you're good with your spacing, if you're good at keeping them at the tip of the blade, then it's very useful. It also seems to be very easy to get into the proper space for this move post GI, so that's a way to set it up. But it's amazing lethal hit move with her, and that's the combo. So I think next we need to do a section on 3B or down forward B and its combos, because this is where it gets difficult or a little bit finicky. But don't worry, it's really gratifying when you figure out how to do this, and it's not that difficult. So first of all, 3B is another move that has these tip range properties that we've already talked about. And when you hit a tip range, you're just going to do the exact same combo as you would off of up B. So it's the exact same combo for really good damage at 68, so that's what you want to do. But if you're closer, the launch is much smaller, and you're going to get the exact same launch off of a while standing B and jumping B. So I recommend the same combo for all of these moves. And here, the bootleg sort of limp dick version you can do if you want to. It's fine. I'm not going to criticize anybody for going for this because it's so reliable, but you only get 45. It's up A plus B. But you can get much more here if you're willing to get a little bit more advanced, right? So what you want to do mainly is this just frame that we've already talked about, and if you do that, you're going to get another one of these butt flap in the air stuns, and then you can get a series of different follow-ups. So that's the combo that I'm going to recommend and that I'm doing right now. And what that is I'm launching. I'm doing the just frame. I need to turn my air conditioning off. My hand is going extremely cold and stale, so it doesn't move properly. There we go. I was warming up a little bit. Okay. So you're going to do that stun, and then the move I do for the follow-up is forward B plus K, which is this breakdance string, where she does these Seong kicks at the end. And the way to make these kicks at the end carry is to hold down the input. So it's forward BK hold. And when you do that, that knocks them into the air, and you can get that up A plus B at the very end. Now, I've seen some people say that this breakdance string after the just frame is not completely guaranteed, and I've seen some say that it is. I tested it a lot this morning, and I actually seemed to manage to time it in a way where you couldn't ukemi out of it. I made my opponent do it, and then I tried to ukemi to all sides, and while I started to get out of it to one side, the forward BK hit me midpoint, and I actually didn't get out anyway, and the combo did work. So I think that this combo is reliable, but there might be a way to sneak out. So far, it seems to be working really reliably for me, so I'm going to recommend it here. But if it turns out that there is a way to reliably get out of this combo, then what you can do instead is just do another 3B after the just frame stun here. If you do this, you're going to get 49, and as far as I know, there's no way to Kemi out of this. But so far, even though it might be slightly inconsistent, this breakdance move seems more than reliable enough that it's what I'm going to go for now. And then, like I say, if it turns out that people are starting to escape this combo reliably when I'm fighting against them, then I'll worry about that then. It should be said that any combo that you end with this breakdance move, because there are quite a couple apart from this one, and like I say, it's the exact same combo for the while standing version and the jumping version. All combos that end with that, instead of doing the up AB at the end for the final hit, you can substitute that for another just frame 3AB, and then after that do forward BK like that and not hold the input. Gives you, I think, roughly the same damage and slightly more meter, but it gets, I think, unnecessarily advanced at that point, but it's definitely something that you can do. Okay, so one more time, because that was a lot of talking, because like I say, this is like the difficult part of the character. Launch, down forward 3, down forward or 3, BK just frame, and then the forward BK hold breakdance move for the follow-up. And you can see that I'm not getting the kicks here because I'm not deep dashing into it. There we go. You need to be dashing in a little bit before the B plus K, otherwise the last hit can whiff if you're too far out. But it is a consistent and fun to do and powerful combo. And you can, if you want to, tack on the super for, you know, extra teabagging at the end, but it's going to scale so badly that it doesn't tack on all that much damage anyway. But it does work. Okay, let's talk about A plus B. A plus B is one of my favorite launchers with the characters and one of the most powerful ones you have. If you hit close, most of the time for reliability, you're just going to do the breakdance thing into up AB right away. That's 88, so that's huge. But if you're counter hitting with it up close, or you're hitting a tip range, one thing you can do is you can stick in normal B plus K or 5 B plus K before the breakdance, and it's still gonna combo like this. And you can see when I hit with the B plus K here that there's yellow lightning on Seong on the ground, meaning that she's stunned, right? So this combo works, and it's a lot of damage. It's really powerful. But like I say, you either want to hit at tip range, or you want to hit with a counter hit to make that work. Otherwise, going straight into the breakdance move is really good for just consistency. But you've got to time it properly, apparently. There it is. So there's a timing aspect to that combo, but it does work really well. Next, okay, let's talk about the sidewalk lethal hit quickly. I think we showed that briefly, but we might as well show it again. Just record her moving like that. In this situation, what I do is just... there it is. 1 B or a down back B. And in the case that your opponent is walking backwards and you catch them with that lethal hit, again you can run up and do your breakdance combo. Next, let's talk about probably your coolest launcher, one of my favorite moves of the character, which is back B plus K. This is obviously designed to be a baiting tool because you can see she walks backwards, she calls you out, she crouches down, and she has built-in GI on her staff, right? So if you GI something with this, or they walk into it, then you're going to launch them for a great combo. What you're going to do here is you can get 3 or down forward KK and before the breakdance for really good damage, so it's going to look like this. And that actually works really consistently, which is cool. If you're at tip range, it's a little bit more difficult, but then you can just go straight into breakdance and it's going to work just fine. So that's really cool. I love this launcher, by the way. It is really useful. Like, you can get people off you with this, so it is a good defensive tool overall. So, have I mentioned all of your most important combos? This, when you're not using it in combos, if you just hit with it normally, still gives you the guaranteed 1B or down back B. So that's really good. And yeah, I think that's gonna be it for combos and lethal hits. You have this thing, while standing BK, which gives you lethal hits when you go under attempted throws, which is really cool because I tend to attempt to duck throws rather than break them a lot, so that's good for me. But I think we're getting into the slightly more fringe stuff for an introductory tutorial, and I think I've spent quite a lot of time talking about the character already. At the wall, by the way, I should just mention that you can get this move, which is forward B plus K, 3 times in a row, or after the post wall spike you can get it 2 times in a row. So for example, if you splat with it, and I did this in the gameplay video you saw yesterday, by the way, this is a really good wall combo, and it just keeps on going for a lot of really good damage. But it needs to be, you either need to splat with the actual move or get a wall spike with the first, where the first part of the first version of this move actually connects and hits, and that they haven't slid down under it, then it's not going to work. But even when you're just at the wall normally like that, your breakdown stuff is not going to let you down. It's a very consistent combo string. It just seems to be slightly contentious whether or not it actually works consistently off of your main launcher here. But like I say, as far as I can tell, it does. One very important thing that we haven't talked about yet, by the way, is that in one of my early videos I mentioned that this just frame here can be inconsistent unless you do a micro dash before you do the just frame, otherwise the move is going to whiff, and that's not the case. This is not a spacing issue whatsoever. That was just something that was floating around, and it was a myth, because what the actual thing is here to make this work is you need to wait for the opponent to come back down to where they're at the exact height of this kick, and when they are, that's when it's going to connect consistently and perfectly every time. Like You see I'm waiting here. If I do it as fast as I can, a lot of the time I either don't get the move out, which is crappy, or I just completely whiff when I do get it out. So you need to wait for them, and when they're at the exact height of the kick, quite late actually, like right there, that's the perfect time to let it rip. And when you do that, you don't have to worry about weird micro dashes and stuff. It's fine. You're gonna get it every time. And then the combo is going to work. So yeah, that's one thing to keep in mind. Practice this just frame, practice the combo, practice it from jumping, practice it from while standing, and eventually it's just going to be second nature and it's not going to be a problem. I think that's going to wrap up everything I wanted to talk about. Man, I expected this video to be 20 minutes long. I don't know how long I've been talking for, but I'm guessing it's quite a lot longer than that. I hope you liked this video. I hope you're enjoying the game and enjoying Seong. What a fantastic character. So much fun to play. Very, very strong, I think, and just a joy to behold on screen overall. Yeah, I'm probably not going to make many more guides on Soul Calibur. I might be persuaded to. The other two characters that I am interested in learning and getting reasonably good with are Cervantes and Astaroth. I'm working on them right now. So if you really want to, maybe I'll talk about them in future videos. But it's just going to depend on, you know, if I feel like it on the day and whether or not there seems to be genuine interest. But for now, thank you so much for watching this video and for watching all of my videos. I'm having a lot of fun making them for you guys, and I hope that you are enjoying watching them. I'll see you guys again very soon. Bye bye for now.